Welcome to my home, stranger. The door is always open to those with the will to pass the threshold. If you're here by appointment, then proceed and bide your time. Otherwise, I'd be remiss if I didn't inform you about the defensive mechanisms employed here, which are quite formidable. Many have entered without invitation, for reasons as myriad as the fish in the ocean. But of those who've dared to explore further, very few have found their way back out.
Been a while since I did this kind of passing thoughts. I've been struggling to find a game that has a specific thing I want to highlight, instead of going over the whole game itself. But Dishonored 2 was on sale, and there was one level I'd always wanted to experience after hearing about it. If you haven't played it yet, Dishonored 2 is a 2016 stealth game developed by Arcane Studios. It picks up where the first Dishonored left off, with Emily Kaldwin succeeding her mother Jessamine as the Empress of Dunwall. Her father and royal protector, Corvo Attano, stands by her side to guide her in the court and in the streets. Emily gets ambushed by a coup, and the game gives you the option to play as either Emily or Corvo, the protag from the first game. You systematically undo the new regime and take the Empire back into your hands. We're not going to get into the specifics of the plot or the mechanics of the game. If you've played the first Dishonored, then you know how Dishonored 2 plays. We're here to talk about a specific level, the Clockwork Mansion. One of my criticisms about the first Dishonored was how its levels were structured. You start the game off at your base of operations, get briefed, go on the boat to enter the level proper, muck about in the city sections, and then get to the area where the target is located. The city sections are broken up into streets and interiors. If you had to enter a building, the game would load another part of the level that was insulated from the streets. It felt very Elder Scrolls. Dishonored 2 shows what 6 years of working on the system can do. The campaign follows the same structure as the first game, but the city sections are much bigger and contain interior sections without having to change screens. Admittedly, the interiors are much smaller now to accommodate the game loading in the level, but there are now no buildings in the city that require a separate screen. That would have been enough for me to say Dishonored 2 is a good game, but then I played the Clockwork Mansion. One of your targets is a genius tinkerer who builds robot soldiers. Think of him as Tony Stark, but if he was into steampunk. So you gotta go into his house and take him out. But he can't just live in a McMansion like every other asshole in the game. He needs to live in the house from 13 Ghosts, with all the moving parts and levers. We gotta get to his house, but first, we need to go through the streets of Circanos. Depending on the choice you made early in the game, just moving around the streets can be either a walk in the park or the most convoluted way to get around. In the first Dishonored, a mysterious figure called the Outsider gives you his mark and allows you to use magic. You could go through the whole game and not use it, but you still had the mark and still had the ability to blink from point A to point B if you wanted. In Dishonored 2, you have the option to tell Ezra Miller that you don't want to be verified on Twitter. This locks you out of using magic for the entire campaign if you're looking for a real challenge. I'm going to show you how to approach a Clockwork Mansion without ever having to cast a spell. But first, we need to do some errands. One of the benefits of refusing the mark is that any runes you would have spent on improving your magic get converted into money, and they go for about 2 to 400 coins. This makes upgrading your gear much easier compared to a standard run. When you reach a black market, you have the option to either buy or upgrade your gear. Press tab to cycle through your tools. I recommend upgrading the crossbow's base stats first, but make sure you have at least 600 coins left for the most important upgrade, the stun mine. At their base level, these babies will knock out humans and stop Clockwork soldiers in their tracks for a few seconds. When you upgrade their damage, they can outright destroy a Clockwork soldier. You'll have to go through 2 districts before reaching the mansion. However you do it, make sure you don't get ambushed by the street gang behind the tram station in the lower district. You can avoid them by worming through an adjacent apartment complex and climbing the tram station's rooftops. The upper district isn't so bad. Hopefully you found an instant sleep dart blueprint earlier in the game so you can knock out the guards in this reception area and reach the 3rd story to get the code to unlock the gate blocking the way forward. Alright, mansion time.
Welcome to my home, stranger.
After playing the audio tape and listening to the message from the target that you heard at the start of this video, you move into the next room and find a dead end. The room is full of Clockwork soldier parts displayed in glass cases, and the center has an intricate spiral sculpture. There's nothing to do in this room other than to pull the lever on your right.
Who would build something like this? And why?
Do you like Portal? How about Portal 2? The Clockwork Mansion is Dishonored 2's homage to the Portal games. As soon as you pull that lever, the house comes to life and the walls shift. This isn't just some fancy animation playing out as well. You can move through the house while its panels move around. A disembodied voice with a gramophone filter breaks the silence.
Someone's activated one of the mechanisms in my house.
Jinosh.
That's the target. He's going to be the GLaDOS to our Chell. He'll beckon you to go upstairs and meet him properly. If you do so, he tells you that he knows exactly who you are.
Not a hired cutthroat. Your clothes are too fine. An aristocratic thrill seeker? That's closer. You've trained with weapons formerly, but you're not a salon fencer. There's a bit of back alley in your movements. All that, and you have your father's eyes, your imperial majesty. Welcome, Lady Emily Caldwin.
Impressive, Jindosh. Then you must also know why I'm here.
I'd assume my involvement with the Duke brought you to my door. Or maybe you're after washed-up Anton Sokolov, comfortably residing in the assessment chamber. Either way, come find me and take whatever it is you seek. But if you fall, I'll have your body carried to my lab for dissection and study. Until either comes to pass, your secret is safe with me.
I'll see you soon, Jindosh.
Until then. Clockwork soldiers, there's an interloper in my home.
All of his lines will now be tailored to harass you as you John McClane your way through his Nakatomi Tower. Hans Gruber. If you don't go upstairs and instead go straight through the restricted area, he'll still hound you, but he won't know your identity, so his insults will be more generalized.
No, come up the stairs. You're shy then. So be it.
Blind, but they can still
In
hear.
the end, you'll be stretched out in my laboratory.
It's really cool that Arcane put that level of detail into a character's voice lines. Once you round the corner, you'll face a hallway with a single guard patrolling the area. If you open the windows, you'll find that they open up into the maintenance areas between the mansion's rooms. Although we can shift some panels around, the house still needs to maintain the same volume, and we'll spend most of our time in the level navigating into space. It's also a great place to stuff any guards you've taken out. Don't worry about the Clockwork soldier standing on display. He'll only be a threat if you set up any of the guards and trigger an alert. At some point, you'll meet the Arc Pylon.
Stand clear! I'm bringing up the Arc Pylon! Wait!
Yeah, you don't want to run into that bug zapper. We'll deal with that later. Turns out that there are other people in the mansion who have business with the target. They're harmless and can be easily ignored, but this one guy sounds like a huge freak.
When was the last time someone had me waiting for more than an hour? I can't remember. It's almost titillating.
I like how much thought was put into the concept of a house with moving parts. There are levers in almost every room that let you change its configuration, but the maintenance areas also have a corresponding lever. There are signs posted in the maintenance areas written by the target that instruct whoever's cleaning the place what to do and how. They have the same passive-aggressive energy as post-it notes from the worst roommate you've ever had to live with. The mansion is an extension of the target's personality and a monument to his hubris.
In part, I made this place for luxury and spectacle, I suppose, but it's more than that. This place is a testament to engineering itself.
If you follow the path through the maintenance areas, you can find the battery powering up the Arc Pylon underneath the elevator for the main hallway. There's also a corpse lying here covered in blood flies that's got a bone charm that'll give you passive bonuses. Now that the main area is safe to cross, you can pick up the guards keeping watch and stuff them in the maintenance areas. From here, you can choose to go after the target first or rescue your buddy. Rescuing your buddy requires you to go through a clockwork maze where you have to step on switches to shift the walls and find the right configuration. Also, you gotta do this while dealing with a clockwork soldier on patrol. Let's talk about the Clockwork soldiers. The first time I dealt with them, I thought they were hard. You need more than one grenade to take out a single soldier. They have two cones of vision, one in front and one in the back, which means you can't sneak up on them from behind like regular enemies. However, you can sneak alongside them as long as you stay close. They'll walk a few paces and then stop before beginning another walk cycle. If you have a rewire tool, you can approach their right side and hack them by reaching their IFF mechanism on their right legs. Be careful about doing this if you're trying to go for a clean hands run, because they'll attack anything that comes into their view, and they can walk pretty far away from their original position. If you end up in a fight with a Clockwork soldier, make sure you have enough health potions on hand, because it can rip right through your health pretty quickly. Block the sword swipes, watch out for the electric attack, and hack away at its arms to get it to self-destruct. Go for the glowing white parts, because that's what powers a soldier, and the more you destroy, the more often a soldier will overheat and need to cool down before attacking. If you upgraded your crossbow bolts, you can also shoot their heads to disable their IFF. They don't move unless they detect movement, and they'll attack anything that's near them. This is a great method to deal with more than one Clockwork soldier, as you can let them fight it out and then finish off the straggler. But you can avoid all this headache if you took my advice early on and upgraded your stun mines. Plop one on the ground and wait for the light to turn green. When a Clockwork soldier comes into range, the stun mine will send out an electric blast that'll destroy the soldier. Too bad you don't get the sword upgrade that lets you backstab Clockwork soldiers until much later in the campaign. However you deal with a Clockwork soldier in the maze, hit the wooden planks covering this switch plate to reach your buddy. Just like the target, you'll have different dialogue with your buddy, based on whether the target is alive or dead at the time and whether you dealt with the target lethally or non-lethally. Either way, your buddy gets so excited to see you that he falls into a diabetic coma. Can't do much for him now, other than to get him out of his cage and put him in a tram headed for the way out. To get to the target, you can ride the elevator all the way up, or send it up and use a maintenance route to get back up and pull the guard away from their drink. You won't find the target in his bedroom, but you can find ways to reach him, by either walking along the pipes in the walls, or by pulling the lever and moving through the room as it shifts. Either way, you'll have to take an elevator all the way up to the target's work area, where he has 2 Clockwork soldiers on patrol. Now you have to make a choice as to whether you want to kill or disable the target. When it comes to killing the target, you'll be spoiled for choice.
Small minds like yours.
Goodbye, Grand Inventor.
Machine has lost its quarry.
Goodbye, Grand Inventor. Kieran Jindosh. Goodbye, Grand Inventor.
Hey, Hans Gruber. Historically, the non-lethal options for targets in Dishonored 1 had a cruel edge to them. Sometimes they were poetic, but then there's that one option where you let a creepy guy carry off a girl, and the implication is that she ends up not having a good time.
At last, oh my love, someday you will understand. You'll never know how happy you've made me. Someday she'll learn to appreciate me. After all, she'll have her whole life.
Leaves a bad taste in your mouth, especially when you don't directly engage with the targets until you meet them face to face. Dishonored 2 does a better job getting you acquainted with your targets. You talk to them firsthand and see why they need to be removed. The methods of removal aren't necessarily cruel. One target wants to find your panic room and take all the gold you keep in it, so you knock him out and trap him in that room full of gold with no way to escape. Another target isn't outright evil, but needs to take their normal pills to stop acting up. It's a straightforward puzzle where you interact with objects, but Arcane uses it as a way to show off their fluid dynamics, since you need to distill a chemical with a Bunsen burner and draw it up in a Bioshock syringe to administer the cure. Bioshock is a fitting comparison for Dishonored, as both games share the same design philosophy of being immersive sims set in retro-futuristic worlds. Andrew Ryan is a great comparison for our target, since he also won't shut the fuck up until you personally deal with him.
It's cold and mirthless outside the walls, isn't it? Hello? Are you there?
The non-lethal method requires you to play around with the target's modular lab to get enough power available and give him a good shock to send him to Jupiter.
No! You don't know what you're doing! Anything! I'll give you anything you want! Stop! Don't do this! So much will be lost! An age of advancement!
Too bad it had to come to this, Jindosh.
And if I combine the acid against a copper plate, what does it do? I knew that a moment ago.
Get it? Because it makes him stupider? We're pretty much done with the mission at this point, but there's an achievement in the game to reach a target without ever knowing your presence in his house. To do this, you can't pull a single lever in the house, including the first one you see. Unfortunately, you can't do this on a no-mark run. You have to shoot at a glass ceiling and use blink or far reach to get to the roof and follow the exact same path towards a target. You can still move about in the actual rooms of the house so long as you don't alert guards. If you haven't activated anything, then he has detected you. When I reached the maintenance elevator to get to his lab, I didn't even call for it. Instead, I climbed the entire elevator shaft using far reach and the maintenance boxes as platforms. When you reach his office, he only has a single Clockwork soldier patrolling. Dishonored 2 is weird when it comes to approaching enemies when they're sitting down. Sometimes you can choke them out, but if they're sitting in a tall chair, you can't get a good angle to grab them. Sadly, I couldn't do anything fun to him while I was sitting down, so I just kept it simple. I still like this mission though. The environment is a real star of the show, and I was impressed with the set of moving parts that each section animated, while realizing that I had the ability to move through the space instead of watching a canned animation play out. Dishonored 2 is a fun game, but I had a hard time getting it to run. I had to use compatibility settings to get it working, which is weird because the first Dishonored runs fine out of the box. If you're going for the non-lethal no-mark run, make sure to save scum because the enemies in this game like to sweep their heads around and spot you from their blind sides. Makes approaching them feel inconsistent. Also, there are some rooms you're just not gonna get because the nearby guards are in bad spots. Now that I've cleared this mission like an angel, all this restraint and passivism has left me wanting. I need blood. I need chaos. I need to tear this place up and not have a single soul realize what I did.
This thing can see what we're doing?
Welcome to the final mystery, Jindosh.